Football is fueled by dreams. To go further, get there faster. Those wins don't just happen.
They must be claimed. Work for today, achieved together. The XFL is where the full potential of football is realized, both on and off the field.
Give cities new reasons to cheer, partners new platforms to build on, people a deeper sense of fandom,
And athletes a new path to live their passion and play professional football. This is tomorrow's league.
driven by a new purpose and a shared commitment. Powered by new leadership, this is for all of us, and the only way to get there is together.
To change how football is experienced, where passion meets a field of possibility.
Tomorrow's league starts today.
Welcome to the XFL.
And welcome to the end zone. Let me know down below if y'all can hear me. For some reason, I can't see myself showing up on the screen, but I do see the background. Let me know if y'all can hear me. What in the world? Okay, so today we are talking about the XFL and what we think needs to happen for the league to be successful. And we'll have a slower, less people in the stream, which actually might end up being a little better because this is pretty last minute and I haven't really been on YouTube the past couple of days because I've been working for World Lacrosse and the World Games. So I've been very busy, but there really hasn't been much going on in the news regarding the XFL, the US. There has been Major League Football news, I will say that, but a lot of frustration with Major League Football, and they haven't really been posting on their main accounts, even though they are in training camp in Mobile, Alabama. Currently, as we speak, all the teams are there. They haven't announced how you can watch the games. And a lot of these games are overlapping when you look on the schedule. So let's dive into the XFL. Y'all comment first what you think the XFL needs to do to be successful. So, first and foremost, I think this goes without saying, the level of play needs to be at par with what the XFL had the original time around. And I think that it could be better possibly than the United States Football League because they will be paying their players more. I think that's something that is definitely huge when you can swing that, when you have the money to throw around to big names, big players. I think that's definitely a plus. So I hope that the XFL can find the quarterbacks to really anchor and bridge this league, because I thought that the XFL 2.0 did an excellent job with the quarterback selections. Now, some of the quarterbacks did not pan out, whether it was due to play or to injury, and that's just unfortunate. But we got stars like Jordan Teamu, we had PJ Walker, and then we eventually had a quarterback go to the NFL who never played much in the XFL, never actually saw any snaps in game, in Taylor Heineke. But we got good quarterback play for the most part. You look at that point in the season when it started to collapse with the world and everything around it, it looked like Tampa Bay might have something good going on with their quarterback situation. I, for one, liked Luis Perez and what he started to get going with New York. It was shaky in DC. It was good in St. Louis, obviously, with Teamu. It was great in Houston. Los Angeles with Josh Johnson was looking quite incredible. And I just thought that the quarterback play for the league, also Seattle, what was doing pretty well. Quarterback play is going to be vital. And I am going to read off some names of some notable players who are in the XFL player pool, and some of them have already received invites to be in the XFL draft. And we will live stream for the XFL draft just like we did last time. Now, y'all all got to go follow XFL Analyst on Instagram and Twitter. He's had a lot to do with tracking many of these players who have been invited to the XFL draft pool, and he's been tracking it all. So, really good account over there. Let's talk about some notable guys. I think quarterback number one, Eric Dungy, is out of Syracuse. He spent some time with the Dallas Renegades, and I thought that we would likely see him eventually in the XFL because of their quarterback injuries and then just issues. I think that he could be a guy that would be electric for the XFL to have. And again, with these names that I'm listing out and with the original XFL 2.0, when these lists were going around, these are not all of the players. Like Eric Dungy is not going to be the best quarterback in the XFL player pool. It's just the guys who we know who have leaked that information. A lot of these players are probably not allowed to tell anyone that they're in the XFL because I guarantee the XFL has some sort of marketing plan to get these players known and get them out there. Running back Davion Smith, most notably known, unfortunately, for being kicked out of the United States Football League for ordering pizza in the Pizzagate situation, but he's an excellent running back nonetheless. He's been a guy who's been a star in the Alliance of American Football as well as the XFL 2.0 with the Tampa Bay Vipers. So he is a great name to see. Justin Stockton out of Oregon State, I believe, if my mind does not fool me on this one. But Stockton, he played also in the XFL. I think that he could be a good pickup. Wide receiver Martavius Bryant, I've made a video about him. Ardarius Stewart, Isaac Zico, Nick Hawley. He's another one who people probably could know from the XFL 2.0, Jake Sutherland. So we have some names on here that are really notable guys. And again, we're not going to get the full list. Cole McDonald, I see somebody mentioning his name. A lot of people want to see him playing. I think that there were a couple others that have recently entered their names. Andrew Jamil. So he is a fan-controlled football wide receiver who is actually really, really talented. Former Battlehawks running back Matt Jones, who also played for the Washington Redskins, formerly known Redskins at that time. He is a good running back pickup. Fabian Guerra, I don't know if I pronounced his name correctly, but he played for the Memphis Express. Jarrell Presley has received an XFL draft invite. If you're a Washington Commanders fan, Commanders, DC Defenders, all in a loop with these name change situation. He was one of their running backs, and in the Alliance of American Football, he was one of the more exciting running backs with the I believe it was the Hot Shots. Yes, it was the Arizona Hot Shots. And then most notably, I think the biggest name we've heard so far. Yeah, I see Jared commenting, Defenders, forget the Commanders, LOL. Derek King out of Miami. This one is a very, very intriguing quarterback pickup for the XFL for multiple reasons. One, he's a young quarterback relatively. He was a star at Houston, and then he went to Miami. And this is what I'll say about Miami. He was good at Miami for what he had and what he was given. I think it's tough to win and look good at a program like that in college football. They're just not the most stable program. So I think that Derek King could end up being a guy that they could highlight and could get a starting position in the XFL. He's going to be really fun. He's also mobile. Now, he's also had some injury issues, especially after, I believe it was the second part of the season with Miami. So, with that being said, he's another really, really exciting name. And a lot of people are saying right now that PJ Walker, what if he decides to return because the quarterback room is getting really, really crowded for the Panthers out of Carolina? And that could definitely be something that would be awesome. I'd love to see him play in the XFL again, but I doubt he would choose the XFL over the NFL. He would have to be cut, and I don't wish for him to be cut. I'd rather him be in the place that's best for him. Former Oregon wide receiver Josh Huff, that could be an exciting pickup. Georgia offensive lineman and defensive lineman Julian Rochester. There are a couple other names here and there. You'll see some returning players. Defensive back Bryce Kennedy. He was on the Vipers, which will now be the Orlando team. So, there you go. There are tons of names. Wide receiver Jazz Ferguson. He was with the Dallas Renegades. There are going to be a lot of names that seem familiar, and I think that there are going to be a lot of surprises and guys that you did not know were in the draft, until the draft comes. And that's part of what is really exciting. That's what was pretty exciting for the USFL draft. We had no clue who was in it. How about Dantes Bird? He's received an invitation. He was the former Dragons wide receiver from Seattle. And then Jeff Bade, he has received an invitation. So a lot of different players are being invited into this league, and a lot of different good coaches as well. And we've made coaches videos. We've talked about some of the coaches that I really like who are joining this league. I think that it's going to be very fun. All right. So with that being said, talking about talent, a lot of people, especially when these leagues start, or in the pre-draft mode, a lot of people freak out because a lot of the names they hear are names that they've never really heard of. And a majority of the players in football are going to be guys who you really haven't heard of or don't know. It's really only a small percentage that are those high caliber type of players. But the XFL is probably keeping their best players a secret so they can get that marketing campaign out and ready. And I think that they're going to do a lot with the quarterbacks, especially. I'd be surprised if they weren't able to pull bigger quarterback names than like the USFL and the Alliance of American Football, maybe even the XFL 2.0. We'll have to see on that one, but definitely a great start to what the XFL has done with the talent. So now I'm going to highlight a couple of things and talk about some ideas for the XFL. So the XFL should be more transparent with fans about what they're trying to do. Oliver Luck did such a good job being commissioner, being open to questions from the fans. I agree with that. I thought that the XFL 2.0 social media, I do miss the colorful branding and everything. I don't mind the black and white, the new branding and everything from the social media, but it's definitely a different feel. And you're not going to get that personal touch with this new XFL that the old XFL had. I think specifically because it's hard for Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson to have that personal touch when he's a superstar, whereas Oliver Luck, yes, he's famous. Of course, his son is Andrew Luck, one of the greatest college quarterbacks of all time, high school quarterbacks of all time. And, people wonder what could have been in the NFL. Yes, he has a famous last name, but Oliver Luck was good at being transparent and helping the fans understand what the XFL's direction was. I think that the XFL 3.0 is doing a nice job. I just think that the XFL 2.0 did such a great job that it's really hard to top. So I don't want to say that the new XFL is doing a bad job per se. I'm just saying that it was hard to top what XFL 2.0 was able to do on social media. They won multiple awards for what they were able to do. A lot of their social media people went on to do great things with other sports properties, and you got to commend them for that. That's something that they earned. And I think that maybe, when the XFL starts to fill out its staff completely and get more people in, I think that they'll be able to do a better job. And that brings me to another subject that I want to talk about. I think that it would be an extreme miss if the XFL rebranded all of the returning teams. So we pretty much know what cities are coming, but in terms of returning cities, like I would not, especially for St. Louis, I would not touch the St. Louis Battlehawk branding, colors, slogans, anything, if they own that, of course. Now, I don't know the specifics legally if they can do that, but if they can, they do not need to touch it. The branding has already been done for the XFL. They don't need to put more money into that. Now, I do think they will get new uniforms, and I really think they're going to get Under Armour because we've seen from the showcases, the players are decked out in Under Armour. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is wearing XFL Under Armour gear. The stars are all aligning. The relationship that Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has with Under Armour. We know Under Armour is trying to get more into sports because they are kind of in third when it comes to the race between Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour. Under Armour is sort of becoming the afterthought. If they can work with the XFL, make that their league, I think that they could really, really rejuvenate their brand in football, get their brand out there more because in college football, they don't have as many teams as Nike. They don't really have any professional leagues. And, Under Armour is just kind of becoming that afterthought. And I think that it would be a great opportunity for Under Armour to revamp the uniforms. And I'm okay with that. I think that they should keep some of the uniform qualities a little bit the same. Like, don't go overboard. Like, keep the helmet for the Battlehawks. I think we can all agree with that. But I'm okay if they change the jersey up a little bit. And they're probably going to change the jerseys up a little bit anyways so they can sell more. I think that is a no-brainer there. All right, so Jared, another great comment on the XFL needing to start getting into communities, get them involved with football parties, Q&A segments with the fans. I think that they're going to do that, and I think what they're doing in Dallas very soon at a town hall meeting is a great sign. This is something that I think is going to be awesome. All the season ticket holders get to come and basically, I think they get to pick out their seats at the Dallas town hall meeting. And they're going to probably make the announcement that, yes, there will be a Dallas team, just confirming what we already pretty much know. I think that this XFL will have no problem giving back to the community and being in the community. I don't think we'll have any problems there. Again, it's going to be hard to compete with what XFL 2.0 was able to do because they did such a great job. But I think that this XFL will have I think they won't have any trouble doing things like that. Jared, keep it coming with these incredible questions. The sponsorships, that's another thing that I do want to cover for the XFL with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. I think that sponsorships, getting people on board with this XFL will be incredibly easier solely because The Rock is involved. He is a world-renowned superstar. Love him or hate him as an actor. I'm not fond of all of his movies, I'll admit, but darn do I respect him and his brand and his pull and what he's able to do because he is just an anomaly of a human being. There aren't many Rocks out there. And when he puts his face on this league, I really don't think that there are many people who would not want to be involved. So, one thing that you may worry about is like in the future, would The Rock get burned out of the XFL? Or if the XFL lasts forever and The Rock isn't here, everybody passes on at some point. Will they be able to sustain that? And I'm sure that The Rock has all of that put into place and he's thought of these things. But I definitely think that getting sponsorships, the original XFL was probably not able to get Under Armour as a sponsor. I think it's highly likely that Under Armour, one of the big three sports brands in America, will be a sponsor of this league. That is huge. It makes the league look more professional, by the way, too, when you have a branded uniform compared to an unbranded uniform. I think that the XFL did a great job with their uniforms in XFL 2.0, but again, they weren't branded. It looks much better when they are branded with one of those top three brands. And they're probably going to be able to get way more. I think that the ESPN deal, I don't know if that happens the way it does, not just the deal itself, but the specifics of the deal, the long-term contract and everything. I don't know if that happens without Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Danny Garcia. I just don't know if I could say that I'd be fully confident in the specifics of the contract and how they were able to do that. And this is another, talking about the XFL and the talent. They really do need to grab these upcoming college players. And what I think that this XFL is doing really extremely well is they're going to combines. They are going to not only the NFL combine, but actual college combines. They're putting on these showcases and everything. They're really selling the XFL as a league that not only is a stepping stone for the NFL, and unfortunately, like if you do not like the NFL, I don't think that you could ever surpass or be on a level with the XFL, but you don't necessarily have to. You can be an alternative football league where players can become stars in America and make a lot of money. So I think that they can sell something, especially if this first year goes well, if the social media is working, if players themselves, like if the quarterback, say Cole McDonald, starts for Houston and he's their quarterback and he wins all the games, he wins the championship, and they promote the heck out of him, like The Rock and everything, he could build his own brand up and make his own name for himself in the XFL. And he could get to a point where he say, the money is good here. I'm winning. I've got a brand. I don't see the need to go to the NFL where I'd be fighting for a roster spot. I'm starting, I'm winning, and the XFL is my home. So I think that's what the XFL eventually wants. They want players to come to the XFL to be their home, but they have to earn it. They have to earn it, and I think that they have the ability to do that. I really do. All right, looking for some more questions. Yeah, we have some comments about some of the players involved and some other things. Let's see. Is there somewhere with a list? So, yes, if you look up XFL analyst on Instagram, and I believe his account is on Twitter, he has a full list, full post going on for days about the XFL, their players, and who have actually been not just declared like going to the camps, but they've actually been invited to the XFL draft. That doesn't mean they'll be drafted because there's going to be a giant pool, but I think that that is where you could definitely start. Random thought, I find it weird that we don't know Coach Woodson's coordinators yet. I believe that, okay, so I'll answer this question real quick. So the former New Jersey Generals defensive coordinator, Chris Dishman, who, by the way, the Generals had a pretty phenomenal defense. A lot of their players are going to the NFL right now as we speak. Apparently, he's leaving the USFL to go with the XFL to be with Rod Woodson in Las Vegas. So there's another thing. Maybe the XFL is paying their coaches more. Maybe they're trying to kind of suffocate the USFL with pay. Now, again, we have to see if that's like really, really confirmed. But I think that he probably has his coordinators and players, but or excuse me, both coordinators and coaches. But I think that it's just not public quite yet. So we'll see. Yeah, and these are other types of players that the XFL should definitely target. A guy like Josh Rosen, who, hasn't had the NFL career that many people thought he would, or he thought he would. Man, go to the XFL, get some reps, try it out. If it doesn't work, then maybe football just isn't for you. Kurt Benkert, that's another great name out of Virginia. Most recently, is he with the Packers or the Falcons now? I know he moved around, but there would be that's a great name. You want a couple guys like that mixed in with the big names, guys who like I could see a guy like Deshaun Kaiser possibly making it in the XFL. Get some of these young quarterbacks who may have these just backup spots or aren't really necessarily ready for the NFL. People talking about JT Barrett. He was somebody who I thought would be in the USFL, but he had something happen personally that restricted him, I feel like, from playing in the USFL because he most recently played in the spring league and he was pretty good. I don't know. I may be wrong on that. I'll get back to that. But yeah, like a guy like JT Barrett would just be incredible. And people are commenting about Jackson State being an Under Armour program and how they the XFL was recently at Jackson State with Coach Prime himself. Coach Prime posted about the XFL multiple times on his Twitter and social media. They got ESPN airtime. That was something that was also incredible. It felt like the ESPN was really invested in the league. And that's something where kind of I think Fox has done a good job in some spaces, but not in all. Like, I think that the documentary that they put on the Hard Knocks style USFL show was incredible. I think it may have backfired on them with Pizzagate. They got a lot of negative publicity, but it also showed people the league. It may have gotten people to root against the league, unfortunately, but it's publicity nonetheless. Another advantage, and I did want to bring this up, I think that this is a clear advantage. The XFL is playing before the United States Football League. 2 spring leagues, but the XFL has the jump. They have ESPN. They have The Rock. The USFL really needs to get out of the hub system as soon as possible because that's been the number one complaint. The XFL in year 1 is going to have that head start. They're all going to be in their cities, and it's going to be the full-fledged league like XFL 2.0, where the USFL, it's rumored right now, possibly 2 hub cities, 1 in the north, 1 in the south, maybe 3 or 4, but we don't think that all of the cities will be occupied. Slow expansion, and hey, slow and steady can win the race sometimes. But if it affects the viewership, and I don't think it will affect it a ton, then I think that the USFL really has to start thinking about getting owners for their teams, working on that 24/7, day and night, pursuing people who want to own football teams, and getting those teams out into their cities, into their stadiums, and really expanding. But I do think that the USFL has a good deal, obviously being on Fox. They're going to have to figure out ways to differentiate both leagues from each other. And I think that'll be tough. I do think, though, maybe, hey, maybe the XFL coming right off of the NFL Super Bowl might be a disadvantage because people might watch the Super Bowl and they're like, "Oh, another league. We got through college football. Now we got through the NFL. Are we going to really want to watch the XFL?" So maybe the USFL has a better time of the year, It's definitely arguable, and we won't be able to see quite yet what will be the best, because we're gonna have to see the viewership on TV, and then also how many fans are in the stands, which I thought that the XFL 2.0 did an incredible job with. So hopefully 3.0 takes those pointers and is able to capitalize off of that. Are they bringing salary tiers back? So that's a good question. I know that there was I've talked a little bit of the salary, about the salary, but I kind of forgot, and we're waiting on all the super specifics. But I'm going to make a video about the salaries because a lot of people keep asking about that. So I want to have that all in one video so that everybody can get that information. What we do know is that they'll be paying more. They'll have larger rosters, which I think is an advantage to quality of play, having the larger rosters. And then they're also, paying for benefits. They're paying for housing, things like that. Will the XFL get back into sports gambling? 100%. I don't think that the XFL would miss out on sports gambling with their new league. Some more player questions regarding USFL quarterback Shea Patterson. I'm making a video on quarterbacks that I think should return to the United States Football League. If I'm the XFL, I don't know if I necessarily want Shea Patterson. He's an exciting quarterback. This is the one. I mean, if I were a coach or a general manager, I'd say that I've seen enough, and that's unfortunate because I have nothing against Shea Patterson as a kid, but like watching him play live multiple times, watching him at Michigan, watching him in the spring league, watching him in the USFL, it doesn't click. And he reminds me, being a Notre Dame fan, reminds me a lot of Ian Book, a guy who will sit back in the pocket and then just roll out, sometimes afraid to throw receivers open. And I don't know. I would not pick up Shea Patterson on my team. That's just my opinion, though. All right. So catching up a little bit on the chat, guys. Thanks for joining. Also, this pretty much an impromptu live stream. I honestly thought we'd have like 10 people in here. So we actually did much better than I thought. Live streams have been getting better and better. I feel the USFL will be addicted to the hub setting. I say they better look behind them because XFL is coming for you. Yeah, I don't think that they want to get comfortable in that. But then again, if the TV numbers are good, they're going to continue doing it because there's nothing stopping them. So I don't necessarily blame them. If the TV numbers are still great for the USFL, then they just got to keep doing it. Oh, yeah. So this is another thing that I left out. The NFL Academy will also get top tier talent. I think that is key. So earlier I mentioned how the XFL is doing these tryouts. They're at the NFL Draft Combine. They're at multiple regional combines, college combines. They're really doing their job scouting, and they're partnering with people who can help scout. So that in itself, I think, is really good. And like, NFL Academy probably got more publicity from that announcement than the XFL did. So it really ended up helping them when you have The Rock talking about the NFL Academy, producing players, things like that in the XFL brand. I think it ends up helping the NFL Academy a lot, and they're going to help the XFL in turn get the best players. So I think that that would be a another good point about developing guys. Yeah, and Gregory, you bring up a great point. The spring football weather in the spring, I'm putting that in quotation marks because it's really the summer. Like they should call the USFL the United States Summer Football League because it's kind of deceiving to say it's in the spring, in my opinion. Although, yeah, like it kind of is. And I guess the XFL isn't technically all in the spring, but it is so hot at the games. I mean, being outside, like being at an 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock game, even some of the early nightcap games, it is brutal. It is absolutely brutal out there in that heat. It's just honestly, it's kind of unbearable. Like I tried to take friends out there to a couple games and we were sweating so much through our t-shirts, we just had to leave. So that's another thing, and that's, one thing I'd love to see the USFL get some domes, maybe get some teams and some domes. Help out your teams with weather. We did see some weather delays a couple times here and there. So, there are ways to work with that. But for sure, I totally understand what you are saying with about the weather aspect because it was super hot. But then again, there could be also some colder weather on the other side of it. But I'm still excited to see and again, we're getting the actual XFL team cities announced by the end of this month, which is super exciting. So I cannot wait to actually announce that and get the ball rolling with the XFL. Although the timeline pretty much matches for the most part with XFL 2.0. There are a couple things here and there that are off, obviously, because they're not the same organization, but there are, a couple similarities. And I think that the XFL 3.0 is doing a fine job. I think that ESPN is going to do a great job at promoting the league. I hope they do it during college football season. I hope that they're able to do it a little bit with the NFL as well. And who knows, if anybody could pull off an XFL Super Bowl commercial, it would be The Rock. I'm not saying that's likely to happen, but that's something that could happen. And here's a good USFL related comment. That's an incredible point. All of these cities have contained covered stadiums, although Atlanta's not in the USFL, but Tampa, New Orleans, Houston. Tampa does? I didn't realize Tampa did. Nonetheless, still, Birmingham doesn't have one, and it was hot. So I think that, again, the XFL and the USFL are only going to be as good as their players. At the end of the day, you can do all the marketing. You can do all the promotion. You can get all the coaches. And, well, actually, it's coaches and the players. I'm going to tie those two together. But you got to have that synergy, and you have to have that rolling because people want to watch quality football. And a lot of people disliked the USFL and criticized the quality. Although I combated that with examples of good quality football from the United States Football League. But I'll admit, sometimes it was shaky. I think a lot of that was due to the small rosters and not as much time to prepare for the season. And in some poor coaching, which I don't think I have to name for many of you. So that being said, we're going to have a bad coach in the XFL. You might not be able to predict it, but like there's going to be a bad coach or two. All right. They're going to be bad quarterbacks, but they're also going to be good ones. And they're also going to be great coaches. And it's going to be exciting to see and experience. And it's not really that far away. I mean, yes, it feels like forever, but time is going to fly. And I'm very excited to see what the XFL does. And I'm excited to also see how does the United States Football League respond. So that's pretty much kind of what I have today, but I also do have a quick announcement. I'm going to be posting more. Again, I'm done with operating and working for the World Games. So if y'all are in the chat, y'all can go ahead and comment some things that y'all would like to see this week. I'm going to be talking about the USFL. Some players are going to the NFL, which is very exciting. Got to give them some claps, give them some cheers. Also, I started a lacrosse team at my university. If you're feeling generous enough, and I know money is tight, you can go help support us. And there's our GoFundMe down there, so we can actually have a season. We're clubs, so like the students fund it and fundraise and everything. We're doing pretty well, but yeah, it's been exciting. And for those of you who don't know, I love lacrosse. That's like my first sport, and eventually I do want to work in lacrosse one day, grow the game and grow the sport. I know I've actually seen plenty of comments from y'all about lacrosse, and didn't know that many people really watched or like lacrosse. With that being said, guys, I thank you. If y'all have any questions, I'll stay around to answer them. But that being said, the stream is pretty much over. Just get your questions, your final questions in, and I'll be sure to answer any questions you have before I go. All right, so we do have a question regarding who has the most stacked coaching staff. Bob Stoops takes the reins for me. Okay, so I'd have to go back and look back at the coaching staff. I don't have them all memorized, but I do remember that Stoops had a pretty strong staff. So bear with me here. I'm kind of pulling it up on my phone real quick. I do think that Seattle has a good staff because they have June Jones as their offensive coordinator, and that could be huge. Let's see. It's kind of hard to argue with that one. Yeah, I would definitely. I'll agree with you there on Stoops because I like what he can do. But June Jones and then Ron Zook as the defensive coordinator for the Dragons, what we presume, and according to leaks, they're still going to be the Dragons with Jim Haslett as their head coach. That one could contend up there, in my opinion. But Stoops definitely feels like he has one of the strongest cases. He won't have Hal Mummy, unfortunately. He was arrested. But yeah, I would say Bob Stoops, but it's pretty competitive. I think that these coaching staffs are fairly even. I don't love the Defenders staff, or what we think will be the Defenders. I actually think that they might change their name and branding Greg Williams is a guy who I don't love because of the bounty thing. Here's one that could be an under the radar one. So for Houston, wide receiver coach AJ Smith, he was the former Houston Roughnecks wide receiver coach and is now going to be the offensive coordinator. First of all, what a story that is. Second of all, the wide receivers for that team, I mean, they were absolutely nasty and how much they were able to put in terms of production up with that team. It helped having Walker, but wide receiver coach is always part of the scheme, always part of that offense. Being a Notre Dame fan, if you don't have the best wide receiver coaches, you kind of fall behind offensively. Does the USFL or XFL take a chance on Art Briles? I think that how long, I guess, do you have to wait to make that hire is the real question. But he's definitely a great coach. So we don't know all the details on the specifics of the contracts, but again, whatever league pays the players the most will get the best players. So that's my comment on that. So pretty much we are done here. Thank you all. If you have any loose change, please help out the local lacrosse team. And I hope y'all all have a great week. Thanks for joining me on the live stream. Make sure to like, subscribe, and comment so we can move the chains. I hope y'all are out there moving the chains as well. Y'all have a good one.